Right, welcome back to ENCA now. Navigating the South African corporate landscape is often a delicate balancing act. It's not always just about getting the job done. Many times people deal with workplace bullying, being overlooked, organizational culture shock and stereotyping. In her new book, We Are the Ones We Need, author Sihle Bolani looks at surviving the workplace from the point of view of a black professional. She is here in studio with us. Well, social worker and author Kleinhans outlines some workplace challenges in her book, Toxic Workplace, The Damage That You Don't See. And she is here joining us from our Cape Town studios. Thank you very much, ladies, both for joining us this afternoon. I want to start off with you, Sihle. Now, both of the books deal with challenges in the workplace. We spend the majority of our time at work, whether you're in the corporate culture proper or not. Workplace, bullying, organizational culture, that's inevitable. And you speak from a very personal point of view of some of the experiences that you had that motivated you to write the book. What were some of those experiences?
Gosh, I think the biggest thing was the bullying aspect of it, and how my frustration was how corporates can really turn their backs on situations of that nature, where you don't have any success in trying to get your issues resolved through HR or through executive intervention, so you find that employees are stuck in an environment that they're in 80% of the time, but you're unhappy, you're being mistreated, you are discriminated against because of the color of your skin or because you're a woman, or, there's so many different scenarios. And the implications, that are as a result of that, I mean, for me, it even led to physical ailment. I suffered from chest pains. And I think from my experience, I realized how important it is for us to start speaking out, because all of us kind of suffer in silence because you're too afraid to say anything, because you don't want to lose your job and your income. You don't want your employer to sue you or accuse you of trying to bring their brand into disrepute. There's so many challenges that are often obstacles for professionals that need to speak up about the injustices that they endure within the workplace.
Now, Erica, your book also written from a very personal perspective. Do the experiences that Sihle is talking about resonate with you? You had similar experiences of bullying and discrimination?
Good afternoon, Annelie. Good afternoon, viewers. Yes, I first want to say that I want to give grace to God for allowing me to sit here today, because I thought it will never be possible, and I thought that I wouldn't be alive up to this day.
So that's quite a dramatic statement.
My experiences of bullying, yes. I touched in my book, and I bring out the seriousness of bullying. It's often understated. It's often that people don't think it's that serious, but it is. I speak in my book about the cycle of abuse, because bullying is actually abuse.
I want to interrupt you there.
I never thought of it as abuse because I...
Sorry to interrupt you there. I want to come to you, Sihle, just quickly and touch on the idea of bullying, because it is something that a lot of people might tend to associate with something that happens to children more often than adults. And yet it is, as Erica is saying, a very serious problem in the workplace. And do the sort of the stigma surrounding the word, perhaps, bullying, prevent people from speaking up?
I think to an extent, yes. But I think the other part of it is that we've never actually had... You don't have a place where you can go to that explains to you what bullying looks like in the workplace. So a lot of people wouldn't necessarily call it that because you don't know what it is. We don't openly speak about bullying experiences in the workplace. So, for instance, your boss shouting at you is a form of bullying. That's a lot more pervasive and in your face. But not being given opportunities to progress in your career, or people who are less qualified being promoted ahead of you, or being paid more than you, is also a form of bullying, but it's not quite in your face like that. So then what do people call that? And I think that's the biggest challenge, is wanting to label things when we don't have a set way of describing what the various behaviors are and what impact that they actually have on employees.
Now, Erica, none of these behaviors are new. People have been struggling in the workplace for as long as people have been working. But yet we lack the kind of structures to deal with these problems effectively. We now can label them, like Sihle has said. We can now identify those types of behaviors that are not acceptable in the workplace and that don't have to be accepted by employees. So what needs to change in the organizational structure to allow employees to better address these situations?
Legislation is clear about, if you take the employment equity, it's clear about committees that needs to be established. It's clear about anti-harassment policies. It's clear about platforms where you can speak about. I think the difficulty comes in is that you have to build paper trail and you have to have witnesses. In my view, it allows the bullying or the abuse, like I call it, to continue to a point where you are mentally so tired, where you don't want to go further, where you don't want to speak out. Because you see, I mention it in my book, the different strategies of dealing with whoever is bullying you. And I often heard at people that I've spoken to or places that I've talked to, speak out, speak up. But you can actually make it worse for yourself if you speak out and management or ultimately the employer is not taking it serious.
Okay, so this is quite key, and I want
Because
to touch on that. Sorry, Erica, I know we've got a bit of a delay, so we keep overlapping there. I do apologize. Sihle, surely there are already structures in place that should help us identify these problems, deal with them effectively. What are the things? Is it historically entrenched norms that prevent management essentially from A, seeing the problems as they are, or is it purely in some people's best interest not to recognize these problems?
I think it's definitely a case of it being in an organization's best interest to not deal with that because of the risk that it actually opens them up to. I mean, you have your labor law, for instance, which is very specific about particular legislations relating to the workplace. And for instance, equal work, equal pay. It's part of the law, but is it practiced? No, it's not. So, the law only works to a certain extent because employers are equipped with all of the best legal minds. They have all of the resources. So employees stand very little chance of actually winning gaining some sort of success in labor-related matters. So that's a big thing, and that's the issue with structural racism and discrimination in any environment, is the structures are built in such a way that they protect the perpetrators of those behaviors. So even if you go to HR, you won't get any assistance if you have the structural power is not actually transferred down to those HR managers. If you have executives that don't make it a priority to actually, live out the right values to ensure that there is equality and fairness in the workplace, to ensure that all employees are well taken care of and nobody's being abused, if that transfer of power has not happened, then you're not going to have any real change. We see a lot of, black executives rising to the top of huge organizations, and we all think, oh, fantastic, somebody is finally going to drive the black agenda. But those people get those appointments and they get those fancy titles and those great salaries, but they don't get the organizational power that comes with it. So essentially, they are unable to change the way that the organization is run. They are unable to ensure that the workplace is a safe environment for black employees.
And also the responsibility of then championing the cause for those following in their footsteps is a huge responsibility.
It's huge.
And sometimes it's just too much for one individual in an organization.
Exactly, because there's too few black executives around boardrooms to be able to make meaningful change.
Right, I want to quickly wrap up by finding out where and when we can get hold of your books. Erica, your book is in the final stages of being edited. Just to recap for our viewers, the title of that book, Toxic Workplace, The Damages That You Don't See. Where and when can people get a hold of your book to read it?
My book will be published next year by June.
Fantastic. Is that going to be available through most retail bookstores, or are you going to release it online?
Yes.
Fantastic. Right. So that was...
I'm going to release it online and as well at bookstores.
Great. So that was Toxic Workplace, The Damage That You Don't See, written, of course, by Erica Kleinhans. Sihle Bolani, your book is called We Are the Ones We Need. Where and when can people get hold of it? Is that already on the shelves?
It's already available. Exclusive books, bargain books, sharabooks.com. The book's available for global orders, deliveries, anything.
Right, so December is definitely a time when we all have time to read, so no excuse not to get hold of those books. Thank you very much for your time, ladies. We look forward to seeing more from you in the future.
Thank you so much.
Right, Ronald Masinda will have your sport in just a moment. Do stay with ENCA now.